Have you ever looked around the room and thought, why wasn't my name put forward? You've led the projects, delivered the results, done everything right. So why are you being overlooked? Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast, the show for high-performing professionals who want to be seen for their brilliance, speak with influence, and accelerate their path to leadership. I'm your host, Kimberly Brown, international career and leadership expert, keynote speaker, and best-selling author of Next Move, Best Move. If you're ready to turn up the volume and finally get seen, heard, and respected inside and outside of your organization, you're in the right place. Let's head into today's episode. Welcome back to the Your Next Move podcast, episode 116. I'm Kimberly, and today we are talking about something that completely transformed my career trajectory. And I'm not just talking about the obvious stuff like getting better at presentations. When I first started seriously developing my public speaking skills, I thought that the benefit would be simple. I would just be less nervous when I had to present. Maybe I'd sound a little more confident in meetings. That would be the extent of my expectations. But what actually happened, the ripple effects went so far beyond what I imagined. We're talking career opportunities that I never would have had access to, income increases that seemed impossible, relationships that changed the game for me, and honestly, a completely different version of myself began to emerge. So today, I'm breaking down 7 unexpected benefits that came from investing in my public speaking skills. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about benefits that only apply if you want to become a professional speaker. These benefits showed up for me when I was still working my 9 to 5, when I was just starting to say yes to small speaking opportunities, and most importantly, when I was still terrified but doing it anyways. So let's get into it. The first unexpected benefit, I developed executive presence before I ever had any type of executive title. There's this moment that still stands out to me. I was maybe 2 years into intentionally working on my speaking skills. I was in a meeting with very senior leaders at the university I worked for, people multiple levels above me. My boss's boss type of moment, right? I presented an idea, not perfectly, but clearly, with conviction, without apologizing, and just being myself. After the meeting, one of the provosts pulled me aside and said, "You sound like a leader." Y'all, I was not in any type of leadership position at that point, but something had shifted in how I communicated. And here's what the research tells us. According to a study published in the Journal of Leadership and Organizational Studies, executive presence is primarily communicated through 3 channels, and 67% of it comes from communication skills, particularly the ability to speak with clarity and confidence under pressure. Nobody tells you that you don't develop executive presence by waiting until you have an executive role. You develop it by practicing the communication skills that signal leadership capability. And public speaking, practicing it, that is an accelerator. When you learn to command a room, structure your thoughts under pressure, and deliver your message with conviction, that translates into every single professional interaction that you have. Meetings, presentations, client calls, cross-functional meetings, and collaborations, job interviews, all of it. Now, at that time, I didn't become a director overnight. It was years and years and years later that I did. But I started getting invited to meetings I wouldn't have been to before. People started asking for my input, and my ideas landed differently. Benefit number 2. Speaking gave me instant credibility that would have taken years to build otherwise. Let me explain what I mean. I was working in higher education at the time, doing good work, but I was honestly one of many other smart people doing good work. I wasn't particularly visible outside of my immediate team. Then I said yes to speaking at a small industry event. And y'all, this was probably 2012, 2011. So I'm fairly certain that I had to pitch and submit a conference proposal in order to speak at this event. So when I got to the event, there were under 100 people in the room. The conference in totality had about 100 people, and I was teaching a concurrent workshop. So I'm assuming that room at this time may have had maybe 30 to 50 people in it max. And I shared the insights from a project that I led with one of my coworkers who was also presenting with me. I talked about what we learned, and I gave practical takeaways. After what was probably a 45-minute presentation, my LinkedIn connection request went up. People started emailing with questions. They were at the event and had questions. And at that same event, I was asked to join the board for the organization. None of this was because I was the most experienced person in my field. It was because I was visible. And being visible creates the perception of expertise. Research from the Harvard Business Review found that professionals who engage in thought leadership activities that include speaking engagements are perceived as more credible and authoritative in their field, even when compared to peers with similar levels of actual expertise. Is that fair? Maybe not, but that is the reality. And here's the thing, I wasn't being dishonest. I was really good at my job, and the study that I shared was really good. I genuinely had valuable insights to share. Speaking just amplified my credibility faster than quietly doing the good work ever could have. Now, on to benefit three that I honestly never saw coming. My public speaking skills became a filter for better career opportunities. Once I started speaking, even at small events, opportunities started coming to me instead of me chasing the opportunities. But more importantly, the quality of those opportunities was very different. When you speak well, you're no longer just a resume in a stack. You're someone people have experienced, someone they've connected with, someone who's already demonstrated they can communicate complex ideas effectively. Now, I don't know about you, but in my career, I had to present during my interviews. That was generally the final stage of most interviews that I had when I was in corporate America and especially in higher education. There was always some type of presentation. I started getting recruited for roles I hadn't even applied for. I eventually got consulting offers for my own company. I was invited to advise on projects outside of my normal scope. But the most unexpected part, my public speaking skills helped me filter out opportunities that weren't right for me. Because when you can clearly articulate your value, your standards get higher. You stop settling for roles that don't actually align with what you bring to the table. A study from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. Honestly, I have to pause here and just say NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, is one of my favorite professional organizations for professionals in career services and university recruiting. I was a member for years. I went to conferences, was in their mentorship program. I love it and I believe in their work. So I had to include this stat from them. When they did some research, they said that communication skills consistently ranks, and we're saying public speaking, presentation abilities, as a top skill employers look for, above technical skills, above analytical abilities, above everything else. Your ability to speak well literally opens doors that stay closed for equally talented people who cannot communicate effectively. And if you're like me, you want to be on the side of someone who's viewed as an individual who can communicate effectively. So, benefit number four, my network grew exponentially. And more importantly, it grew strategically. Before I started speaking, I networked the traditional way: coffee meetings, LinkedIn connections, industry events where I'd awkwardly try and start conversations. I used to go to an annual alumni networking event at a very fancy club in New York City every year. And I would pray that I would coincidentally run into an old friend at the bar or sit next to someone influential who I could chat up for the evening. I was awkward and I honestly hated those events. I was so daggone nervous, but I'd go because I felt like I was supposed to and I needed to expand my network. But when you speak at an event, the dynamic completely changes. People approach you. They already feel like they know you because they've heard you share insights, stories, and maybe even some of your vulnerabilities. I remember after one of my most significant speaking engagements, I had a line of people waiting to talk to me. Some wanted to connect on social media, some wanted a picture, some had follow up questions, some had opportunities that they wanted to discuss. That one 60-minute presentation generated more meaningful professional connections than years of traditional networking had. But here's what's even better: the quality of those connections was also different. These weren't random contacts. These were people who resonated with my specific message, who were interested in a particular area of expertise that aligned with what I was talking about, and they saw alignment between what I offered and what they needed. According to research from the Wharton School of Business, professionals who engage in public speaking report building more valuable professional relationships in less time compared to traditional networking methods. The study found that speaking engagements create what people call perceived reciprocity, where the audience feels like they receive value from you, which makes them more inclined to engage and reciprocate. My network didn't just grow, it grew with the right people. So, benefit number five. This is a little meta, but it might be the most transformative. Preparing to speak forced me to get crystal clear on my own expertise. When you're preparing for a presentation, you really cannot hide behind jargon. You can't be vague. You have to distill your knowledge into clear, compelling points that an audience can actually understand and use. The process of doing that over and over and over made me understand my own expertise at a much deeper level. I had to ask myself, what do I actually know? What makes my perspective unique? What's the through line in my experience? What patterns have I seen that others might have not noticed? Those are some hard questions, but answering them, because I had to in order to create presentations, gave me clarity about my professional value that I never had before. And I don't know if you're like me, but I don't like getting stumped on stage. Okay. And for folks who haven't started public speaking, that may be a fear of yours. Is someone asking you a question that you cannot answer? I'm a big believer that you could always say, you know what, that is a great question. Let me get back to you. Let me take your information and I will follow up with you. I don't quite have the answer today, but I will have it to you tomorrow. I'm a big believer in saying what you don't know. Don't make things up, because if you lie on stage, that is a whole different podcast episode, right? But I always wanted to make sure that I had as many answers as possible. So that also up-leveled my own expertise and how I communicated, because I wanted to make sure that I would not get stumped as much as possible. I knew what I was an expert in, and I knew what I wasn't in. I knew how to articulate the difference, and that clarity changed how I showed up professionally. Every time I prepared for a presentation, I wasn't just getting ready to deliver value to an audience. I was getting clearer and clearer on my own expertise, my own value, and my own unique perspective. So, benefit number 6, and this is probably a favorite one for a lot of folks. I probably should have put this one first, but my income grew in ways that seemed impossible before developing my speaking skills. Let me give you some real numbers, because I think it's important to be transparent about this. When I first started speaking, I was not getting paid to speak, period. I was doing it for the visibility, for the practice, for the credibility. But within a few years of consistently developing my speaking skills, I started saying yes to opportunities, and I booked my first paid speaking engagement. Now, I don't remember the fee exactly, but I am fairly certain it was probably around $500, because this was probably around 2013, 14, around there. I wish I could had my invoice record so I could find it, but it was well under $1,000. But I went from 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 to 3,500 to 5,000 to 8,000 to 10,000. And fast forward to now, I charge multiple 5 figures for a 60-minute keynote presentation. Okay, over $20,000 for a 60-minute keynote. But it's not just direct speaking fees. The opportunities that came from speaking, consulting projects, advisory roles, my coaching business, all of those revenue streams trace back to my public speaking skills. And if you've ever worked with me, you know I've never claimed to be the cheapest career and leadership coach out there. My company, Brown Leadership, does phenomenal consulting projects in learning and development, building out curriculums. Like, when I think about the ROI, it is multiple 6 figures of income that speaking brings into my company every single year. So according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, earn on average 10 to 15% more than their peers with similar credentials and weaker communication abilities. But in my experience, I think that number is conservative. The income impact goes way beyond the percentage increase in your salary. It's the opportunities you get access to. It's the ability to articulate your value in negotiations. It's consulting work, side projects, any entrepreneurial ventures that become possible because you can effectively communicate what you offer. And I'm not saying everyone needs to become a paid speaker, because for folks in 9-to-5 careers who really just want to grow your personal brand, conference speaking, unless you are a keynote, most of the time, conference speaking, you are not getting paid. You may get reimbursement for travel. You may get a free conference ticket. Well, most of the time, all speakers get a free conference ticket, but they generally don't pay for workshops and for keynotes when you're not a celebrity. And that's absolutely positively normal. But what I'm saying is, when you develop your skills, this has a direct, measurable financial impact in other ways. So for example, in my 9-to-5 career, I went from working at a private college to 2 Ivy League universities and then a Fortune 100 company in financial services. My personal brand that was developed and experienced by hiring managers and people in my network helped me have even stronger negotiating abilities when it came time to negotiate my salary. Which each move, I was always able to negotiate at least $20,000 of a salary increase, and also a lot more in some instances, okay? The numbers do not lie. So last but not least, we are coming to a close now. We have benefit number 7. This is the one that might have changed my life the most. The confidence I built through public speaking transferred into every other area of my life. So here's the thing about public speaking. It is objectively scary. Standing in front of people, being visible, putting your ideas out there, risking judgment or failure, that's high stakes vulnerability. So when you do it, you will feel that nervousness. And y'all, I still feel it. I still get nervous every single time I take the stage. But I do it anyways. I survive. And my hope is that you'll even do it too. And you'll do it well, and something will shift in you. You start to think, if I can do that, what else can I do? For me, the confidence I built on stage showed up in my salary negotiations, in difficult conversations, in taking risks that I wouldn't have done before, in setting boundaries, in pursuing opportunities that scared me. A study from the University of Michigan found that professionals who regularly engage in public speaking report significantly higher levels of self-efficacy, the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations, and that this increased self-efficacy generalizes to other professional and personal domains. So what does this mean? The confidence you build by doing scary things, like speaking in front of people, makes you more confident in doing other scary things, and that can change your life. So there you have it, y'all. 7 unexpected benefits that came from developing my public speaking skills. To recap, we have number 1, executive presence without the executive title. 2, instant credibility in my field. 3, a filter for better career opportunities. 4, exponential network growth. 5, clarity on my own expertise. 6, income growth that seemed impossible. 7, confidence that transferred to everything. So now I want to be real with you, as always, right? These benefits did not happen overnight. They did not happen with one presentation. They happened because I committed to consistently developing these skills, saying yes to opportunities, even when I was terrified, and treating public speaking as a professional competency, not just some nice to have. So if you're sitting there listening, oh my gosh, Kimberly, this sounds great, but I don't even know where to start. I get that, because that was me well over a decade ago. And that is exactly why I created the Visibility Shift. It is my 6-month program designed to help professionals like you build real speaking skills, create visibility opportunities, and access all of the benefits that I talked about today. If you're curious about what this actually looks like and you want to make this type of shift in your career, head to kimberlybonline.com/webinar, and I want you to register for my upcoming webinar, Build Your Professional Brand Through Public Speaking Training, where I'll also be breaking down exactly how the program works, who's it for, and how to help you go from I'm terrified of public speaking to I'm actively creating opportunities through my speaking. Because here's what I know for sure, just like Oprah says, right? You don't have to be a natural speaker to access these benefits. You just have to be willing to learn, practice, and put yourself out there. All right, that is what I have for you today. As always, may your next move be your very best move. Until next time.